Hi guys, and in today's video I'm going to discuss the topic of synthetic reeds. And I suppose the first thing to say is let's look at the differences between synthetic reeds and natural cane reeds. The most obvious thing to say is that synthetic reeds last way longer than natural cane reeds. They can last as much as 10 or 12 times the length in some cases. And the second most obvious thing to say is that they are ready to play immediately. There's no soaking required or manipulation or anything like that. They just play straight away. And a final and really important thing to say is that they tend to be much more consistent than the natural cane reeds, just due to the material that they're made from, and that can be a big reason why you would go for synthetic reeds. So with this in mind, why aren't we all using synthetic reeds, you might wonder? Well, I suppose the thing to say is they're not to everyone's taste. There can definitely be a different sound and a different feel and a different response to the player. And in a minute I'm going to go through all the synthetic reeds that we offer here at Sax.co, and I'm pretty sure you're going to hear some very obvious tonal differences. So with that in mind, let's wrap up this intro, and now I'm going to go into playing all the main synthetic reeds that we offer here at Sax.co. So first of all, I'd like to talk about Fibrous L reeds. Now, Fibrous L's own website describes the material that the reeds are made from as aramid fibres, which are essentially long chain polyamides. And these are suspended in a kind of lightweight resin formulation, and they claim that the reeds can last up to 6 times as long as natural reeds, if you like. So here is a close-up of a Fibrous L reed, so we can see that there in front of the camera. And I'm now going to do a bit of a demonstration so you can hear the tonal features of this reed. But first of all, I'm just going to give you a bit of a starting point. So this is my regular setup. I'm going to be playing a D'Addario Select Jazz filed reed. I think it's a 3 soft, so that you've got a comparison point. Okay, interesting. So my kind of playing experience was of a much more sort of bright and punchy sound. And actually, in terms of the stability of the reed, I found that I had to push a lot more air through it in terms of trying to support the middle octave area. So I hit that F there, and it naturally just wanted to kind of go a bit on the lower side in terms of its pitch. So I had to really push the air up in order to stabilize it. Again, I think that's one of the main things to bear in mind with synthetic reeds, that there's a big adjustment period that needs to occur. It was such a contrast to my regular Select Jazz reed there that immediately I didn't quite know where to go when I first put some air through it. But playing it for 5-10 minutes, you'd soon have a different playing experience. Of course, that was just a 20-second burst there. So really bear that in mind when you're trying these reeds out. So next on the roster, we've got Legija reeds. Now, Legija reeds are subdivided into 3 different types. We've got the standard, or the classic, which is this one here. And this is the kind of default dark all-round sound. And then after that, as you might guess, a much brighter one. This is the studio, much more of a jazz kind of funk sort of reed. A lot more highs in the sound there. And then a sort of in-between one is the signature. And the signature, I have to say overall it's the most popular one. The sound is a little bit more nuanced and complex. There's a few more sort of high frequencies mixed in there, just giving it a little bit more, as I say, complexity within the sound. And it's actually made from a slightly thinner material, a different material, in order to give that end result. So I'm now going to play a little ditty on each of these and see if you can pick out the differences. Don't need all that. So that was an interesting test, and the one that's immediately in my mind right now, because I've just played it, is the Signature. And for me, this is the outstanding winner, personally, over and above the other two. I find it a lot more natural, a lot more like a regular cane reed in terms of the way it feels to play from the player's point of view, as well as the actual sound that you would hear. So going back to the beginning, the first one, the standard one, sound-wise, it's fine, but it's just a bit difficult to get into. I found it a little bit stuffy. I was possibly on a quarter strength too high, you might say. But even then, the sound was a little bit limited for me. It didn't quite have all the sort of overtones and the natural kind of cane feel that I get in this Signature reed. And then the in-between one was the Studio, very obviously brighter in sound, as you could hear there, a lot more sort of highs there, very sparky. It would take me a little while to get used to it. Again, it's just that stability thing, just trying to hit the notes in the center without too much sort of wavering of tone. But I can definitely see the advantages of the Studio if you're trying to go for that sort of sound. But for me, the clear favorite is this one here, which is the Signature. So the final reed that I'm going to look at today is the Forest Stone reed. And I've got here a medium hard Hinoki Forest Stone reed that I'm going to demonstrate for you in just a minute. And the most obvious thing to say about Forest Stone as a company, so they're based in Japan. They bring extreme attention to detail in terms of their manufacturing processes. They use a solid singular mold to make their reeds. But crucially, the reeds are made from 52% bamboo fibers, so natural cane, and then the rest is a synthetic material. So it's a kind of amalgamation of the two materials, if you like. And so it gives it this lovely kind of natural look to it. It's got a really smooth look. But of course, it's not just about the looks, it's about how it plays. And in fact, Forest Stone themselves brag that this is the most consistent reed on the planet. I have to agree, it's a very nice reed to play, and I do find them very consistent when you change from reed to reed, something I mentioned in my introduction. All these reeds are very consistent. So let's have a little blow on this medium hard Forest Stone. So yeah, in a similar way to the Legija Signature, I find this a little bit more natural, more similar to natural cane fibers. For me, the winner overall, if I had to name my personal favorite, is still the Legija Signature. But for me, this is a very good second best. Of course, this is very subjective, and you really do need to try these for yourselves. But for me, there's a complexity in the sound. And there's a lot more to explore. If I was to spend an hour or two on this, I'm sure I'd get a lot more out of it. It's not just a sort of a mono sound, if you like. There are various harmonics in there, various sort of areas of exploration, and the sound overall is very nice. So I give a thumbs up to the Forest Stone. But what I would say that's really important with all of these synthetic reeds, you've heard me play them. You can probably hear quite a few contrasting sounds there. But you really do need to get into a testing room and try them yourselves, or mail order them and spend a good amount of time getting used to them. It's not just about that initial sound that you make, it's about the adaptation of the way you would blow down it, even down to sort of throat position and sort of lip position. Without sort of throwing your technique in the bin, you do need to make these little adjustments and just take some time before you truly get into the center of the sound with the synthetic reeds. So that would be my key message with synthetic reeds. We've got all those obvious advantages that I mentioned in my introduction, the fact they last a lot longer, there's no soaking and all the rest of it. But largely it's a subjective thing. It comes down to each player's individual feeling on the matter, and for that reason you just need to get your hands on them and try them all out. Thanks.
Thank you.